Hello and welcome to another episode of the Doomloop Dispatch, the new show that covers the worst parts of the San Francisco Bay Area. Today we have a wonderful guest. We've been trying to get him on the show for a while now, and we're so excited to have him. It's former Oakland City staffer Brandon Harami, who used to work for Mayor Sheng Thao and Mayor Jenkins, and is now with us because he tried to file for a restraining order against Seneca Scot. The judge denied it, even though he had previously settled with this stuff. I mean, we just want to kick this off. And especially, I mean, how are you feeling now about the judge's decision?
I'm fairly disappointed. And, Kevin, I think you and I had the same judge in both our situations. And our situations are both very similar. And I very much disagree with the final decision on this restraining order case. But you take a hit, you fall down, you get back up, and you get back in the fight. And despite this ruling, I have not backed down, and I'm still here to defend myself and my family against false accusations and threats.
So do you still have the temporary restraining order that you had previously, or has it already run out?
That temporary restraining order is over, though the settlement agreement that he signed should still be legally enforceable because it was signed via court order. So there are other avenues that I can explore for justice in this situation, given that Mr. Scot has lied multiple times and signed agreements that he has moved back on immediately. I do have other routes that I plan on taking. This will not be the end of this situation at all.
Yeah, and I was wondering too, do you plan on, there was some suggestion that you could go after him for defamation because of his false accusations he's made about you, being a pedophile, etc. Are you going to move forward with that stuff?
I'm going to be looking at everything. The judge was very clear when she was talking about it. What she was really hung up was not finding sufficient evidence for her that Mr. Scot had made direct threats to me. I had sent to the court some comments that his friend Jason Burns had made about shooting me in the head, and Mr. Scot encouraging that and encouraging me to put myself in a situation where I get my head shot. And she felt what she said explicitly was, Mr. Scot isn't the schoolyard bully per se. He's the person behind the bully cheering them on. And that really stuck with me. And the judge explicitly said, she said there were, Mr. Harami, there are other outlets you can go in civil court. And she said there were other outlets, but she explicitly mentioned defamation. So it's definitely something I want to look into. I don't, there's a kind of a broad scope of things that he has said about me that has really impacted me. He's made threats to report me to the FBI for supporting pedophilia, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard. But he's made a ton of comments about me that, I think would qualify as defamation for sure. Oh, yeah, my dog agrees. My dog agrees. She's like, don't be mean to my dad.
Well, I mean, my first real question, I mean, like, what in your background, I'm talking about your political background, made you a target for Gary Tan's AstroTurf Network, made you a target for this MAGA push, right? I mean, there were a lot of people they could have gone after. I mean, why did Seneca Scot in particular? But even though, because it sounds like this started way back with SF Bernie crowds. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, when exactly did you get on their radar, and why do you feel like you're such a focal point for them?
Yeah. That's really great. So I got my political organizing started in high school with my dad's. We did a lot of stuff for Proposition 8, which was on the ballot when I was 18. I was on the ballot when I was 18. It was my first election, but that was my first time volunteering. And ever since I was young, I've been involved politically, and there's not been an election I've missed voting for. But fast forward to kind of 2018, 2019, I was the chair of the San Francisco Bernie Crats. This is when Bernie won San Francisco. This is when Chesa Boudin and Dean Preston won when I was chair, and I was very visible supporter, and also in all fairness, I did not mince my words towards people like Gary Tan or Susan Reynolds. Susan was where this started. She had, I think I want to say 2020 or so, she shared a doctored image of my profile picture with a hashtag that said maps are valid, which maps, I didn't even know what maps were when this first came up, because it's not really a thing in the LGBTQ community. It's kind of a made up thing that the right uses to attack gay people. But maps is quote unquote minor attracted persons. So like, you know, kind of a PC way of saying pedophile, right? And they just put this on my profile and shared the photo. And the sort of giveaway that it was hella fake was the hashtag. When you hashtag on Twitter, it's blue, right? It's a hyperlink. The hashtag on the photo they posted of me was not a hyperlink. It just said maps are valid. So it was clearly edited. And Susan got on a lot of shit for it. You know, she's an editor for this newspaper, you know, online blog. And she got pushback from everyone. And this is where this is silly, right? Like everyone from, you know, Harvey Milk Club and Chase Boudin, who are like obviously in my realm, but also like Scott Wiener and Alice B. Toklas Club, which, you know, Toklas I have a good relationship with, but, you know, me and Wiener have had disagreements. He came to my defense because he, you know, one thing that I have a lot of respect for Senator Wiener for is his work on LGBTQ rights and LGBT things. And he gets that targeting because of that. And, you know, we can disagree on 10,000 things, but if someone goes to a gay politician and calls them a pedophile and threatens to blow up their house, I am coming to their defense. I'm coming to defense, even if I disagree with them on other things. And he came to my defense, which was crazy. And the post is still up if you look it up. And she just threw a fit. She denied she denied what the original claim was. She was like, oh no, I'm just saying that because Brandon supports this bill. I'm like, no, you didn't. You posted this fucking photo. And she got a lot of shit for that. And she's held it against me like it's my fault that she called me a pedophile. And that continued. And Seneca picked up that when he started working for Gotham Bay Area. He started picking that up when he started working in Gotham Bay Area, and he started saying things like, you know, Brandon's gay parents raped him as a kid, and you know, Brandon supports pedophilia. Yeah, horrible stuff. Yeah, hair agrees. and just it's really just poisoned the discourse in a way. It's really disgusting, you know. Like if you look up anyone who criticizes me online, it's never about like policies. They'll either make just wild accusations that I'm a pedophile, or they'll make fun of like my body and stuff, which is really funny. Yeah, it's not hard.
But I mean, so what you're saying is that the person who actually did the jump off was Voice of San Francisco, aka Marina Times editor Susan Dyer Reynolds.
Yes,
she's the person who jumped it off.
Yeah, she kicked it off.
And so, like we now know that Gary Tan is behind Voice of San Francisco. Like we know that he's the primary funder.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, like so Gotham by the Bay is Stanley Roberts, right? Mm-hmm. And Stanley Roberts is also connected to Susan Dyer Reynolds and Gary Tan. Yep. So I mean, like, so it sounds to me that the primary person that actually said, okay, go and attack him is Gary Tan. And my question is, what would Gary Tan's problem with you be? Why would he have a problem with you?
Probably because I was, and let me tell you, so this is really funny. So my old chief of staff, Lee Hansen, wonderful woman, got a lot of shit that is really unfair to her. But she actually, very early in the Tao administration, she recognized who the power players were and who was like, you know, kind of manipulating the market, stuff like that. So she, in her own personal capacity, reached out to Gary Tan and was like, hey, I would love to meet with you. Like, let's just talk about this, right? And he was like, I will not meet with you until you fire Brandon Harami.
Whoa.
Yeah. and when she brought this up to me, it was so, I was like, I've never even spoken to Gary as a person. It probably comes from, you know, the online discourse. He's blocked me since day one. I've never spoken to the guy or anything like that, but he obviously saw me as a threat, as some sort of threat. And little old me, you know, I think they over attack me as like some sort of, you know, evil manipulator behind the scenes, when really I'm just a guy, you know. I'm just a guy. And yeah, I'm outspoken, but it's not like I have access to like a multi-million-dollar pack like they do or anything like that. I'm just, you know, I'm just a guy.
Yeah. And so how did you get involved with the mayor? How, like what was that relationship like?
Yeah. So I was very involved in the California Democratic Party. I was the vice chair for the Progressive Caucus. for the Bay Area. We did a lot of work trying to reform the party. We got some movement, but not nearly as much movement. But I made a lot of relationships across the state, which I still have, and I'm very grateful for. And I was meeting people who are delegates to the party, and Thao was one of the delegates. I met her through there, and when she won her council race, a friend of mine who worked for another council member recommended that I apply for her office. She's like, I think you two will get along really well. And she was right. We did get along really, really well. And so I applied to be her comms director in 2019, got the job, started working for her. And then I fell in love with Oakland. I was living in San Francisco at the time, and I would come out here and I would, do events and go out to the parks and do cleanups and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, one, I felt, part of me was like, I don't really feel comfortable being a public servant for the people, not living in the community that I represent. So pandemic hit, I was, stuck at home in San Francisco. But the moment sort of things the pandemic's still going on, but when things kind of opened up and we got vaccines, I was like, okay, I'm moving to Oakland. So I moved. I'm over by kind of like the Grand Lake area, and I snagged a really cute apartment, really ugly on the outside, but really cute on the inside, as you can see. And I keep getting asked by even some San Francisco politicians, like, can you move back? We miss you and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not leaving this weather. and one thing I love about Oakland compared to San Francisco is when I walk around my neighborhood or any neighborhood in Oakland, people will either look you and I and nod at you, or they'll say hi. Everyone's very welcoming. I feel like a lot of the gentrification in San Francisco took away that soul, and it's still there. There's still pockets of that, right? San Francisco still has the pockets of culture, but I feel like the gentrification has really changed San Francisco, and some of that lives on, and some of that same energy lives on in Oakland. It's always lived on, right? This is the cultural hub of the Bay Area, and now my focus is like, okay, we need to make sure that we preserve this in Oakland. This is so important. And so I came out here, worked for the city council, and then when she won the mayor's race, I moved over to the mayor's office, and still proud of the work we did. And I think she was given the short end of the stick in many ways, but she'll have her own day in court, and I'm optimistic that she'll come out on top.
Yeah. I really wanted to get into Thao and just like, because I feel like she didn't get a chance.
She didn't. No.
She got like half a term and wasn't able to. Honestly, in your opinion, if she would have been given the chance to govern like she should have been able to, do you think what would she have accomplished? Do you think she would have been a great mayor?
Well, let's look at the results right now, because Barbara Lee has only been mayor for a few months. I think she's doing a good job, but she's only been mayor for a few months. So when Thao was in office, homicides and crime in the first let's say 6-7 months, they were going up, and this was a continued trend from 2020. If you look at the crime stats, it's been pretty brutal. And one distinct thing that happened with Thao that Schaaf didn't have to deal with is Schaaf didn't have to make a lot of cuts because she got an influx of federal funding to cover the budget. That money ran out the year that Thao started. So she was already walking in, has to make these huge cuts. And so she balanced the budget without laying anyone off, which is pretty impressive, I would have to say. And that's because she is very talented. She understands the budget really well. Something people don't realize is that she was a city hall expert. She understood how everything worked because she worked there for 10 years. But let's look at the results now, right? Homicides are down. Crime is down. 911 call times are up to 70% on time versus like 47% when Thao came into office. We're investing a record amount to affordable housing. We have over $500 million of investments to the port. We have the urban forest plan, the vegetation management plan passed. All these big things happened, but she was not given an opportunity. When you're in elected office, the change you make is not immediate, right? And she was not given the opportunity to show. And now that everyone's saying like things are so much better in Oakland, but no one would dare acknowledge that it was Thao who did it. And I think a lot of that has to do with like, the very obvious and big FBI raid that was against her. Like, that was pretty crazy, and nothing could have predicted that. But if that had not happened, I think she would have survived the recall, and she would still be mayor today. If that didn't happen, I think she would have survived the recall, and I think everyone had agreed pre-raid that she would survive it.
Oh wow! So then, what did she have in the works that she didn't get to go through with that you guys were working on together? I mean, what if she hadn't been recalled, what would we have seen?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, you wouldn't have seen this last budget that passed was quite disappointing. It's really hard right now. I don't necessarily blame anyone for having to make cuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to make cuts in this budget because, OPD gets a raise every year. Overtime is up through the roof. We're not collecting as much in downtown office taxes or real estate transfer taxes because no one's buying or building right now. Despite record permitting reform and upzoning in Oakland, there's no financing to build anything. So no one's going to build anything. So you can't collect those tax revenues. And then the other one is the hotel and like tourism funding. And a lot of people blame that in a decline in tourism, which is true. There is a decline in tourism, especially with Trump right now. It's kind of crazy, but it also is a decline in the conferences because now we've moved to this remote system. You can see that there aren't as many conferences now because we can just Zoom each other. Why would I fly all the way out to Oakland for a conference when I can just Zoom you? So those are factors that no matter who was mayor, they would have to deal with and they would have to make cuts. However, this budget that just passed now, it was rushed. It was rushed through. I have never seen a budget pass this fast since Lauren Taylor had a very strong and powerful position on the city council with the equity caucus, and they rushed a budget through. But I think you would have had more time to fix some of the problems that people were concerned about. I don't think the cultural affairs grant manager would have been cut by Thao. I definitely know that she would have been done everything she could to save and protect that position. I also think Oakland Animal Services would not have received just one of the most brutal cuts that it could possibly had because it was already cut before.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like, people are really mad at Oakland Animal Services for changing policies, but it really has to do with the fact that city council like cut their budget to the bone. And I don't blame the city council for cutting things. I blame them for rushing through a budget without giving people the time to look at the details and provide feedback because now they're rushing to fix things, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened with the cultural affairs thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like they take the money back and then Carol Fife comes in and goes, put it back. And they're like, oops, sorry. And they put it back.
And Carol has been explicit that like, hey, we're fixing, like she brought this up during the Oakland Animal Services thing. She's like, I find it really, this is me, not an exact quote, but she said something along the lines of like, it's really hard or it's really ridiculous that this council is like rushing to try to fix these problems when these problems were caused by our budget cuts themselves. And I really felt for Joe DeVries, who is a city administrator who's in charge of Oakland Animal Services, because he was getting a lot of flack for something that really isn't his fault. It's the council's fault. And they called him like, Joe, come in. When people were all yelling at the council and stuff, they were like, oh, Joe, come talk to these people about it. I'm like, no, you should be brave enough to say, hey, the reason this is happening is because the council cut the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't blame Joe for that. You didn't give Joe enough resources to help all these animals. And then you're like, oh, let's throw him under the bus. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know the details behind the scenes, but it is extremely disappointing. It is very disappointing, especially when staff works really hard. City staff works really hard.
Well, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was so surprising too how they sabotaged the Coliseum deal, or at least delayed it. I mean, they were trying to attack the hell out of that is a savior of the budget, I mean, was the attacks on the Coliseum deal, was that about another group wanting to get in, or was that, do you think, just trying to sabotage Thao?
A little both. There was another group that was trying to get. It was in 2021 where we started the negotiations for the Coliseum. The entire city council voted to enter negotiations with AASEG. This includes, Taylor, everyone. They all voted for it, right? So it was a pretty quote unquote bipartisan, in a city of Democrats, bipartisan agreement. But the moment that Thao was the one to bring it forward as mayor, and anyone would have been like. If Lauren had won the mayor's race, it would have come forward while he was mayor, right? It was going to come forward no matter what, because it was years of negotiations on this. And the fact that Thao brought it forward, and then this was what everyone freaked out about. She's like, I'm going to use it to plug the hole in the budget. but I'm also going to introduce a contingency budget in case that deal doesn't go through. And everyone forgets about the contingency budget. Everyone forgets about it, that Thao had a backup plan. They were like, oh, she's relying all on this Coliseum fund. She's so blah, 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 blah. Like we weren't depending on one-time federal funding to help balance the budget before. Like we were using one-time funds for years. If you look at a real estate transfer tax, if I sell my house to you, I wish I owned a house, Kevin, but if I sold my house to you and, I paid that real estate transfer tax, that's a one-time funding. That is not ongoing funding, right? Versus like a parcel tax or property tax. So the city's been balancing their budget with real estate transfer taxes and federal funding for forever. But the moment Thao did it, a double standard was created. And not even she wasn't even just balancing it. She had a contingency budget, said, if the Coliseum deal does not go through on time, this is what we're going to do. And the council agreed to that. Like the council voted for that. So for them to turn around and be like, oh, it's so bad, blah, 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 blah. It's like, make up your mind. But what was the funniest, not the funniest, none of this is funny. But one of the most disappointing parts was seeing the Oakland Police Officers Association opposing the deal when so much of the budget was being sucked up by overtime by the police department. And sometimes the police need to use overtime. That's a natural part of their budget. But our overtime was so bad with OPD. It was at like record highs. And we actually got a credit downgrading at the city of Oakland. And we had our overtime called out specifically for that in the credit down. Yeah. And the credit and people are now, some of them are trying to capitalize on it. The haters are trying to capitalize on it. Look, the city mismanaged its funds, so they got a credit downgrade. I'm like, yeah, the police department.
Yep.
And there's room in other departments. I think Public Works was overpaying people to like a fraction of the amount that OPD was doing, but it certainly was a major factor in this. And so for them to come out and oppose the Coliseum deal, which they did a whole press conference at that I snuck in to see, by the way. And I was like, but this is how you get your overtime. This is how we continue paying for more officers. If you want to increase the force, we have to have funding to increase the force. And now the deal looks like it's going to go through. The county held it up. The city was good to go. It was the county that held up their side of things. Thao would have had it done, but the county held it up. And no one talked about how the county held it up except for the Oakland Observer, of course, because Omar is usually on top of things.
Yeah, and that is interesting because like the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was like how much did the press play into like really doing a lot of negative spins on Thao's administration, on the workings of like very knowingly knowing how things actually work in city council, but then going to the public and twisting and turning it to make it seem as if this was something that was atypical that was going on. And how did you guys, like how did Hanson, the mayor, and yourself, what were your plans? How did you try to counter what the Chronicle was doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The Chronicle was disappointing. I'll first start off by saying this, and it's kind of one of my favorite things to say. You know how they say democracy is the worst form of government besides all the governments that came before it?
Yeah.
Freedom of the press is horrible except for the alternative.
Yep.
Well, and especially in a corporate press environment. But I just want to emphasize, like, it can be frustrating dealing with the press. Some press outlets, some reporters, it give or take depending on who it is. It can be frustrating to deal with, and it can be really great to deal with, work with other reporters on stuff. They're great, good reporters or bad reporters. There's bad editors. There's good editors. It's a whole. You got to understand the whole. Kevin, you worked in the press a long time. You got to understand the whole dynamic of the press and who might have relationships, say, with Sam Singer or what have you, or these other people, or people who are like, I got to go out, film this press conference, get it done in an hour, and then submit it for the nightly news tonight. So you don't have a lot of time to get into the nitty gritty. It's a 1 minute segment. They're not going to talk about, these details and stuff. So it's really challenging. She had two press directors when I worked there. She had Francis and she had Casey Pratt, and I worked with them in some capacity. I did I helped them write press releases and stuff like that. And it was challenging. Harris, stop. It was challenging for a number of reasons. One, Chris Moore, Edward Escobar, Seneca, the sort of doom loopers, they have all the free time in the world to hold 20,000 press conferences. So one thing you saw is, businesses getting burglarized or what have you really horrible situations. And it was pretty bad in 2020, not even pretty bad. It was horrible in 2023. It was really bad. And what they started doing is every time a business got broken into, they would not talk to the business. They would go to do a press conference out front of the business and then get all these press to come out. And then they would just blame Thao for it all and Pam Price. Right. And they would do this every week. And the press, a lot of the TV press would just come eat it up and then leave. Right. And there were a few businesses when they got broken into, I did a lot of constituent services. So when businesses would get broken into, I would often reach out to them and see how we can get OPD to come support them and what have you. And multiple times I had these business owners reach out to me and be like, there's some people holding a press conference outside my business. Like, what are they doing? Like, they were just taking advantage of these things for this stuff. And it's not like they had the businesses out there to say, oh, Thao reached out to us. Thao came and visited this morning or anything like that. They just were able to say whatever they want. So there was that. The Chronicle editorial board in particular was very frustrating. The Sarah Ravani is the reporter out there. She's pretty good. I like her. I like Sarah, but that reporters, have to defer to their editorial board. And one of the big disappointing moments was when the Chronicle, went to, what is his name? The Oakland Report guy. What's his name? Tim Gardner.
Yeah.
So Gardner went to the Chronicle and was like, hey, OPD is releasing police data that changes over time, right? That changes over time. So it's inaccurate and you can't use it. And this was when crime was declining. And so the Chronicle writes a whole piece after crime is declining in Oakland to say, oh, you can't trust these numbers. They're bad. And this has been a reporting method that Oakland has used for a decade, the police reporting method. And it's the exact same method that San Francisco uses. If you look at both of the police reporting, you'll see on the bottom, it'll say, this data can change as more reports come in. And so if you looked at last week's data and saw XYZ had happened, someone on Sunday, so it cuts off on Sunday, I'm sorry, someone on that Monday could call and report, oh, hey, this crime happened to be last week. And then you would have to adjust reporting. There's no way of giving 100% real-time accuracy. But there were some areas that like homicides, for example, they were shooting down. And what do you think the city's hiding bodies? So the Chronicle reported this, you can't trust these numbers, didn't look at any of the other cities that were using the same one, singled out Oakland. The editorial board did this whole thing. And then after Thao was recalled, they did a whole report like crime is down in Oakland.
Oh.
And it was just like, it was really disappointing because they brought in, what's her name? Rachel
Swan.
Yeah, Rachel Swan to do that piece. But the person who normally covered Oakland was Sarah Ravani, who is very familiar with the details of Oakland because she covers here. But they brought in Rachel Swan to do this report, and it was just like out of the blue. Another instant was the In-N-Out situation. Oh my God. Christ. Jesus Christ. Also the In-N-Out owner fleeing to Tennessee, all right, see you later, lady.
Yeah, please go.
Thanks for becoming a millionaire off
Lindsay with her white trash spelling of Lindsay.
Yeah. I love Tennessee, by the way. I often visit Nashville. My best friend lives there with his wife and kid. Beautiful state, but not great politics.
Terrible politics. Terrible.
So the Chronicle dedicated 2 of their reporters just to focus on car break-in crimes in the In-N-Out parking lot. That was a whole report just dedicated to that for the largest newspaper in the Bay Area. And mind, it was an issue, right? Hegenberger has always been an issue in the city, but it was a major issue. People were getting their cars broken into or having their luggage stolen or something like that. But by the time Thao kind of got her policies done in Hegenberger, we saw a 70% decrease in crime on Hegenberger. But this was after In-N-Out left and after the NAACP held a prayer circle in the In-N-Out parking lot and what have you. And it was disappointing to see them leave because they were still profitable. They had no desire to leave until that report came out. And then I think for them, they were like, oh, this is bad press. We're dipping. And then you would have 10, 15 restaurants open a month in Oakland, but you wouldn't hear about it because everyone's talking about how In-N-Out closed. And it's like, it's disappointing. It's disappointing because now everyone just, the recall campaign just started doing really bad In-N-Out style merchant stuff off of it and all this crazy stuff. And it was just so overblown. It was so irritating because things improved and the Chronicle never reported on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like this brings me to another thing. Is there a leak in City Hall? Because like a lot of these things seem to have come directly from some kind of back channel.
Yeah.
You talked about another one where a person got a hold of someone's termination letter before the person who was going to be terminated got the termination letter.
Yeah.
So there have been these back channels going on. The Raina Webb situation where how did you guys as an administration deal with that? Because like there's a certain kind of lunacy that was coming from inside the building. So how did you guys deal with that?
It's the Oakland deep state.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there were people that we knew worked for the city that disliked Thao. I think you see Scot means now. He used the Health and Human Services Division. I worked well with Scot. I never had a problem with him. It wasn't until later I found out that he was really tight with Seneca. So he was certainly one person who was giving details, especially around the budget cuts and stuff like that. I know that he was doing it. There were other people too that I was suspicious of. I'm not going to throw out accusations here, but some of those people no longer work for the city. That I believe were also leaking stuff. The letter is extremely concerning because sharing that is very illegal. It was likely a closed session item. I didn't go to closed session. I wasn't high up enough. But what closed session is? Do you know what closed session is? I can
define it
for your listeners too. Yeah. So closed session is a meeting of the city council, staff, and stuff like that. And they handle legal issues, staff, lawsuits, what have you. So like, let's say with the coal terminal, right? That back and forth, the city council has to vote to approve like settlements and stuff like that in closed session. But because it's legal matters, the information there cannot be disseminated without like city attorney approval and stuff. So what I theorize happened in that situation is someone in closed session knew that this person was going to be fired. They had the letter and then they sent a photo to someone, and somehow Ansel got a hold of it. Which doesn't surprise me because Ansel's whole MO is thinking that he's some sort of like government watchdog, when all he really does is just piss everyone off in City Hall. Like no one likes him at this point because everyone's tried to work with him, and he just gets so like aggro. I don't know what his MO is. I really don't know what his deal is. I suspect that he has been working with Seneca for a long time though. But yeah, someone's been leaking from closed session, which is very illegal, could get the city in a lot of trouble. And I also know for a fact that some council members have been leaking stuff from closed session as well. And it is really disappointing because you got to keep that stuff to yourself, right? This is legal stuff. You got to.
Yeah, this is insane. But they'll take anything that they can get, and they just, when their mission is just to hurt people, they'll do whatever they want to, which is so awful. I want to get back. We mentioned, well, first off, I want to say with the Chronicle, I'm going to post the interview that Julia Pitta did with the editor-in-chief at the Chronicle. Everyone needs to read that again to see where he's coming from. I mean, he's definitely coming from the right. He wants to cover petty crime. He wants to help the Doomloop narrative. But we also mentioned the NAACP, and I wanted to ask you, because it's so nuts, how does it feel to have a press conference celebrating your firing? I mean, that is so insane to be centered out like that when you're just a staffer, but to have a group call you out like that, it's just vindictive to me.
Yeah, it was quite cruel. It was quite cruel of them to, the point of the NAACP, or what I've seen it, and the great work the NAACP has done throughout time is centered around justice. I never thought at any point in my life, in my career, or even just activism as a progressive, that I would ever have a situation like this happen to me. And it was very damaging to my reputation, for one, to have the NAACP accuse me of harassing Black women online. That was specifically what they accused me of. And then also like I had scheduled meeting, and Tao's partner was in that meeting at the time. And I'm very happy to give you some context as why that happened, because it was kind of crazy.
Please.
It's very disappointing. Like, we have a coal terminal that's being force fed to West Oakland right now, for example, that will we've invested a lot of money to improve air quality in West Oakland. And this coal terminal, despite whatever they say, is going to, one, make the air quality there worse, but two, like, the more coal that's shipped out, the worse it is for all of us, right? Like climate change is still real. It's still an existential threat. Just because Trump is scary and president right now doesn't mean that this isn't just as important. And the reason that they don't speak out against this is because Greg McConnell's on their board, and Greg McConnell is the lobbyist for the coal terminal. And the NAACP has basically in their letters spoken out in support of the coal terminal. And I think people need to realize that the current NAACP leadership is moderate and conservative. It's not even. There are people on the NAACP now who compare gay marriage to marrying a dog. And have said that in person. Bishop Bob Jackson specifically. Their chair, Cynthia, she has posted anti-gay stuff on her Facebook page multiple times, including supporting conversion therapy and opposing proposition. She posted this stuff. I don't know if her attitude has changed since then, but to me, the fact that they, I think they held this press conference to try to redeem Seneca and Brenda, the Brendas. And the fact that they would take this time to attack a progressive gay man in defense of conservative, anti-gay, anti-trans, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim like psychopaths is just extremely disappointing. But I'll tell you, the outpouring of support I got after that happened was pretty significant. And I know that like most of Oakland and Oakland politics, and even neighborhood councils and business districts, they don't believe the shit. The people I work with, they don't believe the shit. Like,
well, I mean, I'm glad you brought up McConnell, because McConnell actually runs an organization called the McConnell Group.
Yep.
And the McConnell Group are the ones that put out these so-called surveys that was supposed to be in favor of recalls against you. And the Oakland Report actually used those surveys from the McConnell Group to say that Oakland felt this way. But we knew that McConnell was actually from the NAACP, and we also knew that he was behind the coal terminal. So, so these surveys were already kind of rigged from the start, So I mean, it's amazing to me that people don't like. Even the national NAACP chapter has condemned the Oakland chapter of the NAACP. They actually said a while back in an article on Oakland side. Anybody can look this up. The national chapter said that the Oakland chapter had been hijacked by right-wing influences. I
think there might be a little mix up there. The national branch defended the Oakland branch, but it was local activists like Walter Riley and folks who were
okay.
But they sent a letter to national. National's like, no, they're good. I think in retrospect they might have a different opinion, but I never thought that I would be in a position to ever weigh in on what the NAACP does politically. I have a lot of respect for a Black run and person of color run group, but at this point, they called me out specifically, and I'm like, okay, well then, like, let's talk about what you're all up to. Because, like, Greg McConnell is not just known for the coal terminal; he was the author and the reason Costa-Hawkins passed.
Oh, so he's like that.
Yeah, if you go on his website and look at it, he brags about being the lobbyist who basically wrote Costa-Hawkins. And if you know for the audience, the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act it sounds nice, but it's not really. It restricts the increase of rent control in local jurisdictions. So. In cities like Oakland, we can't increase rent control past a certain year, San Francisco, whatever, because the state law bars us from expanding it. So as rent controlled apartments, come off the market or get demolished or whatever, we're losing that rental stock. And then what's kind of taking it over is the free market, right? And the more rent controlled apartments we lose, the more the average person is going to have to rely on market rate apartments. And the crazy thing with market rate is you can increase the rent by like 10% a year.
Yep.
So it's a huge difference. And I'm glad the rent cap passed, but it's inadequate to what we need right now. It's inadequate to what we need. And so these are the people like landlords, real estate, coal, anti-LGBTQ folks. Those are the people running the NAACP right now. And so when I talk about the NAACP, I don't want to attack it as an organization because it's an amazing organization that's done good work. We need to focus on the fact that it's been hijacked by leaders who are, Brenda Harami. Let's talk about her. She's the legal counsel for the NAACP. She worked with Dylan Law to defend Seneca. Dylan Law, Harmeet Dylan, who just advocated for, she's Trump's civil rights attorney, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she advocated for 1 day in prison for Breonna Taylor's murderer. 1 day in prison. And Brenda Harami praised this organization while she was defending a homophobe in court with them. Mm-hmm. And that is the type of person that's in the NAACP right now. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart because, that alone is bad, but there are plenty of gay, bi, trans, non-binary, etc. Black folks. Plenty in Oakland. The Founders of the LGBTQ Center, for example, and they are under vicious attacks from the federal government right now, and the NAACP should be protecting them, not protecting people who wish them harm.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I really think people need to look at all these kind of organizations that we used to just take for granted were great. Especially the Democratic Central Committees, like they're all being taken over. Alameda counties, San Francisco's. So everyone's got to watch out. But I do want to get on another side. When you were fired, Jenkins said, "Oh, I was planning to clear out the staff anyways." But you were like, "No, this is clear retaliation." And you clearly have your crap together. You're good at what you're doing. Do you think if you didn't get that pushback, you would have stayed on staff?
For Lee?
Or Jenkins even?
Well, the plan was we were all going to leave when Lee won.
Okay.
And I have like documentation of this that we were all going to put on our resignation letters when the new mayor won and give them the opportunity to hire the staff that they chose. And I probably would have applied to Barbara Lee's office. I would have put an application in, but I would have certainly given her the opportunity, or even Lauren if you want. I would have given him the opportunity because once you become mayor, you get to decide who your staff is, and that is fine. What Jenkins did was totally throw us all under the bus. He threw us all under the bus. He had certainly been meeting with the NAACP and was certainly talking to them plenty. I'm still waiting for my public records request that I put in April around his communication with them, though. So we'll see if I ever get that, which has been really, really interesting, because I know that on that Tuesday, the prior week before firing me, he spoke to Brandon Harami about me. I know that for a fact because he talked to me about that. And what's really disappointing about this is I stayed on. I was asked to stay on during the interim period to support the interim mayor, and I agreed to it because Nikki was mayor and Kevin was mayor, and I considered both of them friends. I considered them friends. I thought Kevin was my friend all the way up to the point he fired me. And I had texted him the day before about having death threats the day before he fired me about Jason Burns threatening to shoot me in the head and stuff, and his response was to fire me the next day. And I can tell you, it was his plan the whole time. I do have some public records requests already, and it's mostly just staff emailing like, "Hey, we just found out Brandon was fired. He needs to fill out this." Or like, "When is their last day?" And them scrambling to figure out how to end our paperwork. The day I was fired, I had a meeting that morning with Burt Jones, who was the deputy mayor that Kevin sent to go fire me, which I feel kind of bad for him. Because I don't think he ever took the job knowing that he would be forced to fire some of us. But that morning they were like, "Okay, you're going to be let go by the end of the week." And I had my union with me, and she was like, "Where's the letter? Where's the letter?" And I didn't get a letter. My meeting ended at like 11 o'clock. They sent a press release out saying I was fired. And then I didn't get a letter until like 4:45 or so. And the letter had a mistake in it, a pretty distinct mistake. It said I was both fired immediately and my last day was on Friday. So it was a huge mistake. And so we had to get a new letter, and it was like after 5 I got it. So if this was planned in advance, it doesn't seem like it. And he then told the press later that week, he was like, "Oh, I always had a plan of having them submit letters of resignation," which is true. That was our plan the whole time. But I never submitted a letter of resignation. I was fired.
Yeah.
And so he, he couldn't get his story straight. And just honestly, just such a disappointment. He never needed to be so cruel. He could have just, said, "Hey, they're staying on until the end of the month," or what have you. But, now if you look at who he just took money from, Greg McConnell donated to him. And so did Phil Tagami from the coal terminal. So he just took those donations last week. So you can see where.
Well, we're looking at Lauren 2.0.
Yep.
That sounds like Lauren 2.0 to me. It's like if you think he's going to gear up and make that run again for 2026, you think he's going to do that? You think he's going to try to be mayor?
Who, Lauren?
No, Kevin.
Oh no, Kevin told me exactly what his plan is. Like the week before he fired me, which is why I don't believe he had any plans on firing me. He told me he wants to get a part-time job in Nate Miley's office, and then work around the district to get to know people in the supervisor district while he's council president. He explicitly said while he's council president, so that when Nate retires, he'll run for that seat. That's what he told me a week beforehand. And I was like, "You're really going to be council president and work for part-time for Nate Miley?" And he's like, "Yeah, I could do it." I'm like, "Okay, man,
we'll see."
At that point too, I was like, okay, I think Jenkins would be a better supervisor, in general, because at that time, things were different. But he was actually, I'm gonna be quite honest, Jenkins was pretty excited about the fact that Lauren might win.
Wow.
Yeah, even though he endorsed Barbara Lee, he had explicitly brought up, like, I think Lauren's going to win. He's like, we're all going to wear unbuttoned, shirt. He was like excited about it. So he's
talking about the cardigans. He was talking about those cardigans, right?
and that was, he on paper though, he said all the right things after what was clearly our firing was clearly, and Seneca said this online, he called our firing an October surprise and said that Lauren should have taken advantage of it more. So it's clear what it was to them. It was an October surprise to go after Barbara Lee. Like, Lee Hansen was an endorser of Barbara Lee, so they could go after her. I will say that Barbara Lee did condemn the threats against me, which I really appreciated. But that's why I think that Jenkins had to turn around right after firing me and reemphasize that he endorsed Barbara Lee. If you saw that too, it was that same week. So yeah, it's just really disappointing because I consider Jenkins my friend since at least 2022. And I don't know, man, he could have just done this a lot better. He didn't.
Well, there's no friends in politics though. These guys
hey, you know what? There's some people I'm ride or die. I'll say our Congresswoman Latifah Simon is one of the best people on earth. I love that woman.
Oh, good.
I'm ride or die Latifah Simon. She is a sweetheart. She's a very big sweetheart. And then of course, like, Carol Fife is great. Love her to death. And yeah, I'm very happy with Barbara Lee's hiring. She brought in a really good staff, so I'm very happy with her winning that race. And yeah, I've heard rumors Lauren might run again in 2026. We'll see. I think he'll just get spanked worse.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
Okay, but let me just look. I want to bring it all back to where we started though, because because it is about follow the money. It's all about follow the money.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about Susan Dyer Reynolds. We're talking about Chris Moore. We're talking about Seneca Scott. Mm-hmm. We're talking about what's his name? EOD. What's his real name?
Ansel's not really that important though.
Yeah, but I'm saying though, but like I'm just talking about this chain.
Yeah.
There's a chain. Yeah, the Harbin Fortes and the Grishams. Where's that money coming from? Did Dow ever did you, while you guys were like in these staff meetings, like, where's this money coming from?
Yeah,
like, it's a lot of money. Where is it coming from? Because we could say Philip Dreyfus to a degree, but this money is like a lot of money. I mean, like Lauren Taylor's campaign manager was paid something like $11,000 over the course of, like, say 2 months. And we don't really know where that money came from. Where's it coming from? As far as, but when you were an insider, what was the conversation about? around.
Yeah, we didn't talk about campaigns in City Hall just because of the ethics thing, but I definitely, volunteered my free time to help outside of City Hall. Definitely Dreyfus was the biggest donor on paper that you saw, right? And then Isaac Abid. Isaac actually did not support the recall of Thao, believe it or not. Isaac Abid. He did not support the Thao recall. He thought it would be, from what I understand, he thought it would be very disruptive to the city and city business, and he was more interested in his business than anything else. So Isaac was more concerned with Pam in that regard, but certainly Phil Dreyfus was really invested in getting Thao out, and that's the money we know without on paper, right? And then a bit from Ron Conway and his family, and God, the Conways, I feel like they follow me around and screw up my shit. I wish I had that much money. I would be spending it on such better stuff. For the Glenn Burke Clinic, the LGBTQ clinic is like has $1 billion deficit right now. It would be great if Phil Dreyfus could write a check for that. Yeah. The rest of the money is dark money, right? It's money that we can't track. I've heard rumors of who spent it. I've heard anyone from Gary Tan has been putting money into Greg McConnell. I've heard rumors that from decent people that the original person who hired Sam Singer to come to Oakland was Greg McConnell, and using the McConnell group as a kind of the body that governs that. And I wouldn't be surprised by that. And they can hide it, right? They don't have to. If they hire Sam Singer to come do PR, they don't have to share it in a campaign statement or something like that. And then there's the question of who was funding Neighbors Together Oakland, because they never filed their paperwork. It's really funny watching them try to blame Rob Bonta for them not filing their paperwork. Shut down her thing. It's like, you didn't file your nonprofit paperwork. You were too busy holding press conferences in front of Colonial Donuts. You should have been doing your paperwork.
Well, even more than that, because I'm like the thing I find so interesting about that particular aspect is the fact that you didn't want to divulge who your donors were. You were never going to turn it in that paper.
Yeah.
Like, because you would have to say who your donors were.
Yeah.
So,
those yard signs ain't cheap.
Yeah.
They're all gone now. Remember when they were everywhere, and now they're just completely gone. It was such a huge waste of money. He kept saying that he was using that nonprofit to build political power, if I remember correctly, which is complete misuse of nonprofit funds. You can't be using a nonprofit for political work. Move that into a PAC. But I think the reason why is just because he could hide it. It was easier to hide the money.
Right.
You reap what you sow. You don't do your paperwork, the government shuts down your nonprofit. I'm sorry. I think that's fair.
That's how that works.
If it were a progressive nonprofit who didn't do their paperwork and got shut down, sorry, man, you should have done your paperwork. It doesn't matter whether you're progressive or moderate or whatever, or conservative in this case. You got to do your government paperwork.
Well, something which brings us back to, like, why do you feel in particular? I mean, we're almost at the hour mark, so I'm just going to try to do.
I can go even a little longer.
Yeah, in summation, okay. Because the thing is, like, I still would like to know how these people choose their targets, right? Like, I'm still trying to figure out, because, like, you're not a public figure, like you were saying yourself. You don't have an awful lot of influence in City Hall, as opposed to, like, say, people who are sitting on City Council or something like that. I know they're going after Carol Fife, but they can't really touch her. I know they're going after Latifah Simon, but they can't really touch her. But how do they choose their targets? Kevin became a target. Like this woman, Emily Mills, who actually is just a citizen journalist, she became a target. I mean, and they do this, like, deep dig into your family. This deep dig into your personal history, and then like almost as if there's a private investigator or something that's actually, like, going through looking at records, doing skip traces.
Yeah, there is one.
Yeah,
Seneca said twice he hired a private investigator to look into me, and then all they were able to do was make shit up. This is the funniest part.
Yeah.
Right. Like they hired someone to look into me, and then they had to make up that I was a pedophile. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. They didn't see the speeding ticket from 2011, I guess.
Which they will use against you.
They will. Like, all it takes is a DUI, or even for me, they dug in. The only thing they could find was I'm not the snazziest of dressers. That was it.
Look at that too, which is kind of my fault. They got a photo of me. It's really actually.
I saw it. I saw it.
So
I'm like, shit. Like, what is that?
So I can appreciate a good roasting. Let me be real. I can. You go at me and you roast me in a good way. I think it's funny. I don't know if that would be a good roasting, but, like, you did get my belly button. Everyone knows I'm an innie now, but it is it is, you know, I'm a gay bear, right? And we're in the San Francisco Bay Area. Like, I don't have you know, some people might be sensitive about their bodies. I don't really feel that sensitive about being a bigger guy. Like, it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really impact my life very much. I probably should lose some weight just for my health, but like, it's not a huge issue. And I could out hike most people in an instant. Like, I got some strong legs. But they have made a few roasts on me that have been pretty funny. One of them was during the campaign. They got a photo of me and someone's like, someone tell Brandon to lay off the Whoppers. And I had, during the campaign, I kept going by the Burger King on Broadway and getting the Impossible, because I was so busy and I was on my way home and I'm like, oh, just gonna get something to eat real quick. And I get the Impossible Whopper and I'm like, damn, they got me. They got me good this time. And now they get to show my belly. And I was saving to show belly on Maine, you know, if I needed to make a little money or something. And now they're free, and I'm like, oh man.
Beat you to the punch.
It is kind of weird how focused they are on me in two ways, though. They're focused on me in a sexual way, which is, you know, like, really, I don't feel like I give off a lot of like strong sexual energy. Like, I don't really, like my personal approach to life is not really to give that kind of energy. So it is interesting how they bring that up a lot. And a lot of that just has to me being a gay man. So they think about me in that matter a lot, which makes me think, and then the other thing they bring up is my body a lot. And between those two, I'm like sus of a few of them. I'm like, I feel like some of you have crushes on me. I feel like you're talking a little bit too much about how thick I am. You're talking a little bit about my, you know, this sexual stuff. It's a little suspicious.
Well, you know, they did the same thing with me and Kevin, believe it or not. Erica Sandberg and Omar Ward accused us of having a gay sexual relationship.
Oh, well, congratulations!
Yeah, they actually did.
What are you saying? If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, what kind of insult even is that?
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. It was so crazy to me. Is like, you guys talk as if you're talking to people who live in Kansas. And I guess most of them actually are. If you actually take a look at their followers and the people who respond to their accounts, most of them don't live here.
Yeah, the people in the Bay Area, aren't gonna. They're like, oh, I heard Scott Miller and Kevin Jones were having a secret relationship. People would look at it and be like, oh yeah, they would make a couple. Like that would be
as long as nobody's getting hurt, why not?
Yeah.
And people deserve to be happy.
And they're thinking about people's sexuality more than we do. They more than I do. And I'm just like Brandon. All Brandon says is he's gay, and I'm like, no, I say free Palestine and tax the rich and all this other stuff. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I bring up being gay is because you keep calling me a pedophile. Like,
my thing is, hey, Jason, Seneca, like, don't you guys see that you look like a couple?
Yeah.
I mean, do you not realize that you look like a couple?
Yeah.
Like Seneca says something, and Jason comes in like, you leave my man alone. I'll beat you up. I'll shoot you in the head. You leave my man alone.
And this also brings up a really great point. Like, do the funders of these attacks actually think they're getting their money's worth? I mean, because really, like, I don't see Seneca Scott being a good investment.
No, they backed out. They no longer fund him. John Bowders is who's their guy now. They had to go find a gay man because they ran a mailer opposing gay marriage, and they were like, "Oh, it was a mistake. We just filed all the paperwork to oppose this as a mistake." Bullshit.
No, it was.
And then I heard. You're gonna like this. I heard, and I can't tell you all my sources because I got to keep my sources to myself. But I heard that they had a meeting and decided to dump Seneca from the Seneca and all these people from the Dreyfus and Isaac Abid money, and that makes sense because then they brought John Bowders on, and you know I disagree with Bowders on a lot of things, but I can actually talk to him. Like he won't go. Actually, he has. When people have called me pedophile before, reached out and said, I'm sorry people are doing this. This is ridiculous. And I know that the discourse probably won't get much better and that, like, you know, we'll still have policy disagreements. But now, at the very least, the well-funded people aren't going to be out calling me a pedophile, right?
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Another good indicator is the fact that all of the burner accounts have all but disappeared. They're still out there, but they're no longer attacking other people's pages. It's like they don't have the time to do that anymore, or the money. They don't have the money to do that anymore.
This is how I knew Gary Tan was involved, because all those accounts popped up. So this accounts popped up not just Gary Tan, but the bigger picture. But there's all those accounts popped up. If you look up the old Mission Local article when they started tracking them, like back in like 2020, that was when Hearsay Media popped up, which is now the SF Standard, which that popped up at the same time, and then Neighbors for a Better San Francisco popped up at the same time, and Together SF popped up at the same time, all within like 2 months of each other. So it was very clear that it was part of this broader strategy. But yeah, they brought it's funny that they say I run like 100 fake accounts, because like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
That's exactly what they're doing. And like you see now that, you know, I got back on Twitter for a little brief moment. I don't have a problem criticizing these people with my face and name on it. I'll do it all day long. I don't need fake accounts to do that. I'll rip you on my own. Like I'll defend myself. Like, are you
Hey, but you are not Nico. That is not you. But I love that. That classic, we're going to accuse you of what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so classic for the right.
Ron Curtis was the most interesting one. So there's a gentleman named Ron Curtis who used to work for the city. I believe he was in the fire department. I briefly spoke to him. He submitted a testimony on behalf of me, because in 2023, Susan Reynolds and Seneca started accusing him. He had his name and his picture, and they started accusing him of being me. This is where that Brandon with the B, capital R-A-N, capital O-N, it's like Ron is in Brandon. And they were saying I was doing political blackface. I was doing all this stuff. I was running his account, and they submitted an ethics complaint, and the ethics department threw it out saying, oh, this looks like, this is like on the verge of harassment. And then another account they accused of being me, I think it made some offhand, like not a good joke. I don't think this is funny, but made some offhand comment about like a bomb threat or something on Seneca's garden or whatever, their community garden over there. And then I got complaints sent to the city of Oakland that I was making bomb threats at Seneca, like crazy stuff. So they just declare this account is Brandon so that we can hold him accountable to something we don't like, and then we can just viciously attack him. I don't think Nico's ever said anything though that is horrible. I think on the just reading it very similar to like what Hyphy or like Omar would say, you know, like just factual stuff.
Yeah, just telling the truth. That's what you really have to do to get put on the radar. Is you just have to tell a little truth. Like you know,
Emily Bills, they don't like her because she digs through all their shit. Yeah, she's really good at it. If I ever wanted to hire someone to do oppo in a campaign, I would hire Emily.
Totally.
Out there and be like, Emily, you got to work for me. I don't think I've ever met her in person, but I've always been very impressed with her ability to get the deets. You know,
she knows how to dig.
She's a sleuth.
Yeah, she knows how to dig. She can do it.
But yeah, look at the people that they're targeting. Omar, he gets the details. Emily, she gets the details. When I was the chair of the Burning Crats, we got the details and released it. I'm now on the advisory board of the Phoenix Project.
Okay.
So we're going to keep getting the details. And they don't want sunlight on their bullshit because once it's there, then people realize, you know, who actually is behind them.
Well, that's the thing that really helped Oakland was the fact that the Phoenix Project got together with us, Emily, and now you, and that when that chart came out, that chart really did shift the tide of Oakland politics. I think without the Phoenix Project and the kind of digging that Kevin and I were doing and a bunch of others, that Lauren Taylor would have won. And I do believe also that if Lauren Taylor would have won, we would be seeing ICE in Oakland the way that Lori is allowing ICE in San Francisco, and the way that Mahan is allowing ICE in San Jose. I think that was supposed to be the trifecta, and I think that Oakland kind of cut off that trifecta.
Yeah, and Lauren this time around, when he ran in 2022, he ran more progressive because that was the appetite at the time. And this time around, I did notice a distinct difference in the way he ran. I'll tell you too, Lauren has been very disappointing in his staff as well. His former staffer, Lena Hancock, took screenshots for Seneca to use in my restraining order case against me, his former staffer. I know because her face was in the screenshots. So she didn't like block her profile picture. And then there's Pam Farron, who was his old chief of staff, who I got along really well with because, you know, they're coworkers. You work in City Hall together. You have to work with each other one way or another, even if you disagree with things. So I'd say hi to Lauren Taylor every day. You know, we'd fist bump and say hi and be like, okay, even during the campaign, because they're my coworkers. You know, I'm not gonna create a hostile environment for them at work. You know, we can duke it out on the campaign trail, but you know, we gotta serve the people of Oakland. And then, like, you know, his staff was, you know, Pam Farron especially was very involved with the recall. If you go find the kickoff of the Tao recall photos, she was there. And I do know that her and Seneca have been friends for a long time. There was a bunch of photos of them online together. And yeah, in 2022, same with Lauren. He would go fist bump Seneca or give him hugs at like every meeting until it became until the anti-Semitic stuff and that came out and all that other garbage kind of made him distance himself.
Well, I mean, and then like lastly, I mean, like so forget about Kevin. What's his name? The guy who actually came forward and said that Seneca was actually being given money.
John Jones III, yeah.
Yes,
and John Jones was a big supporter of Lauren in 2022, and when I got fired, John he reached out to me and was really kind to me. He's with AASCG, but he's the type of guy that like, yeah, we can disagree with each other during a campaign, but at the end of the day, John and myself and many other people, our focus is Oakland and how to improve our city. That's while right. Other people are all about ego and power. And I really appreciate John Jones coming forward. He had the opportunity to be part of that that network of like AstroTurf puppets, and he declined that, and he worked really closely with our administration. He's a good guy. I
appreciate that he blew the whistle. I appreciate that he actually said that Seneca's been going towards Black people who are in the community who supposedly have credibility. He's getting money to go after quote unquote progressives, and who just so happen to be mostly Black women, by the way. So I'm glad he came forward, and I'm glad that Carol Fife also chimed in and said that there is a network of people who are funneling in money to try to overturn the good that people are trying to do in our city.
And that's why they went after Lee, because they saw in those notes, even though she was just taking notes, I was not at the meeting, so I don't know what happened. But with Lee, where there was the mention of the token comment, which was really bad. That was I wouldn't use the word token ever in my personal opinion, but but what she was trying to say is that there's this AstroTurf network that's paying people in Oakland to be the face of these billionaires, and that's what that comment was.
Absolutely,
it got blown. Of course, they twisted where they were saying like, "Oh, Carol is being their token or Cheney's being their token." It's like that's not what it is. You know what it is. You're trying to
know what it is, and that was the thing that drives me crazy. Is like you knew what it was, because it's clearly Seneca Scott. It's clearly East Oakland Dad. It's clearly people who are being paid to be the Black face of Philip Dreyfus, the Black face of Chris Moore, the Black face of the Landlords Association. Right. I mean, like it was clear as day, and yet they still tried to run with it. I think one of the things that really cost them a lot of people, Black people in Oakland, was them attempting to do that. I think a lot of people saw right through it. Just like no.
Also, some of them attacked really institutional East Oakland leaders. Pastors got threats, very, very important pastors. AASCG, like you really care about building Black wealth in Oakland and try to kneecap the largest Black-owned development opportunity in Oakland's history. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's all capitalism, right? Like investors, blah, 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 development, yeah. But what's great about AASCG is they came in committed to affordable housing. They came in committed to community benefits. We went to Castlemont High School. It was the coolest thing ever. We went to Castlemont High School, and AASCG did a whole workshop with the kids about what they wanted to see at that site. It was the coolest thing ever. Walk through and then they're great. They're a great organization as far as like developers go. They're good folks who want to see good things happen here. And because Thao was involved, they had to do whatever they could to stop it. And it's like the good of Oakland doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter. It matters. Power matters to them. Power matters.
Exactly.
Oakland has a lot of opportunities. We still need to do a lot more work to get the city to a place where like Black people aren't being forced out, where air quality is improved, where homeless people have housing, and all this other stuff. But Oakland is on the right track right now. It is doing fairly well. I think the homeless situation is not on the right track. I think
sweeps are bad.
Yeah, and it's too aggressive. And I've been on the inside and the outside, and I've seen kind of how this goes. And I think honestly, the city council should. I know that they're going to try to move to expand the encampment management policy. I think the city council should really rein it in.
Yeah,
they should really rein it in. I think there's some parts of it that need to be just completely cut out.
Especially whatever I forgot the name of the nonprofit that they send to like provide services. When I went to one of the sweeps, like they just sat there. They didn't even engage with the people being swept away, you know. And apparently they're getting millions, you know, to supposedly help out. And it's just
I do believe the original premise that somehow being homeless is a person's fault.
Yeah.
I think that like instead of it being systemic, I think that's like we have like you're sweeping people as if they have chosen to be homeless, and all you have to do is just get them out of there, and then they'll go get housing, and then they'll go get services. Like, but where's the housing? Where's the services? It's like you're saying homelessness is a choice, and that premise is whack to me. I mean, I feel the same way about addiction in San Francisco with the fent thing. Like that's not a choice.
Yeah. Public health crisis.
Yeah, it's a public health crisis, and so is homelessness. Exactly.
And the thing with homelessness in Oakland, you know, a lot of people will say, "Oh, they're coming from out of town." I'll tell you the plurality of homeless people. The most likely person you're going to run into that's homeless is single Black men from Oakland.
Mm-hmm. Single
Black men. And they're the ones getting swept. They don't have opportunities. Some of them went through the carceral system. Some of them went through foster care, you know, and then our response is just to like move them on. You know, scooch them along or whatever. And then, you know, when it comes to women in particular, most of the homeless women on the street are DV survivors, domestic violence survivors. I would recommend that everyone who does not see who does not quite see it at that level with me to do the point in time count in January. And when you go out and talk, when you go out and talk to homeless people and just get it like, hey, the process has changed. So let me rewind. The point in time count is a yearly count, which we go out and count the number of homeless people living on our street. Traditionally, you just went around and counted, but a few years ago, they changed it to a more survey model where you actually go up and talk to the individuals living on the street, get an idea where they came from, if they're addicted, if they have, you know, if they're a citizen, all this other stuff. And I did it every year. I wake up at the ass crack of dawn. I saw Chris Moore at one of them actually once, which, you know, I wish that would teach him a little bit more empathy. But, when I went and talked to these people, the vast majority of the people I spoke to had been living in housing in Oakland before ending up on the street. Most of them had mental health issues. Some had addiction issues, but I don't really blame people for turning to drug addiction when their life is miserable.
Yeah.
Like you live in a tent under a freeway that the city's going to move you away in the next few weeks so you can go live in a tent in the rain or what have you.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. And you know, I wish I could have done more to kind of push back against some of the stuff that's been going on. I definitely do not appreciate the direction the city's going in. I think it's really disappointing and I'm glad to see Barbara Lee kind of like pushing back against the like going to San Francisco and San Jose levels. But I think we need to really rethink this because it's just not, no one's getting help. I see Lake Merritt gets swept every few months and then just like lo and behold, there's plenty of tents there. Like that's not solving the problem. And we're wasting. So what we're doing, this is the craziest part, because they passed the safe site ordinance or the safe work site ordinance, which, you know, it restricts people coming into homeless encampment sweeps and all that other stuff. The amount of OPD overtime spent on that is insane because you have officers standing there to keep order, quote unquote. And that's costing us a lot of money. And the homeless team, one of the people on the homeless team, Amari Collins, he and I used to work together in the city council office. That guy works really hard, but I don't think this is the type of, you know, I can't quote him in general, but I don't think this is the type of work he wants to do. I don't think it's the type of work he wants to do. And I don't think he has the resources to do it, but the expectation is so high, but we're spending a ton of money on this, you know, and there are some times that we're good. So we just bought a hotel. We got a $7.4 million encampment relief fund grant. I had a little part to play in that, getting that grant, but that hotel was supposed to be purchased specifically for the MLK, the Mosswood Park, and the East 12th Street residents. And from what I'm hearing, a lot of those residents didn't even get access to those hotel rooms.
Oh,
that's what I'm hearing. Like, I'm not in City Hall anymore. I don't know what happened, but the whole point was the sort of Tao of approach, and you know, to some extent, was, okay, the easiest way to solve this problem is just buy hotels. And we can do that now. There's so many hotels that are on the market now, but then you're seeing city council members who are like pushing back against hotel purchases.
Especially on that strip out that way. That strip going out towards Mosswood, right there or MacArthur. There's a bunch of these old school motels. And I mean, I think and the thing is, like, what you do is you turn the check-in place, the place where you used to check in. Well, that's where you get your services. That's where you get, like, you know, they have a little, like, what used to be the little diner is now a dining hall. So everybody gets a bathroom. Everybody gets a bed. Everybody
space.
Yeah, I mean, like, it to me, I mean, like, when it was proposed, like, I guess a decade ago. I mean, people have been talking about this for about a decade. It's a great idea, and all of these motels from, like, back in the 1950s in California, this whole thing was motel culture. So you've got all these abandoned motels all up and down the strip in Los Angeles, up and down the strip, and even San Francisco's got them on Lombard. Like, Lombard has tons of these old school California motels that are defunct, essentially defunct.
And we're talking about MacArthur Boulevard through some of the nicest neighborhoods in Oakland. The Imperial Inn we bought, Piedmont Place we bought. And then there's a bunch in the Laurel and Diamond that I know those owners, because I've spoken to them, want to sell those hotels. And so we can scale up very quickly homeless housing, but it's also a matter of getting the services to them, which is a challenge. But it's a lot easier to deal with your mental health issue or your addiction issue or what have you if you have a place to live.
If you have an address that people can come and check in on you. I mean, like let's go see how he's doing. He lives at this address. Let's go make sure that they're taking their meds. They live at this address. You know what I mean? It would make things so much easier. Okay, we're gonna have to. Because
no, this is fun. If you ever want me to come back on, there's plenty more I can always talk to you about. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I still have questions too, but we are running along. Like, yeah, seriously, especially I'm so interested to hear what you think is if Lee is going to be able to achieve things in this political environment, but also to, I mean, Thao, let's see how this investigation goes.
Oh, definitely want to talk to you about that. But this is just the beginning of a conversation. We've been waiting to have you on, dude. We've been talking about you.
I will say, I'll leave you with this little taster, and we can talk about this later. I don't think Thao is guilty of anything.
Great.
I don't think Thao is guilty of anything. For one, the biggest red flag for me is this idea that she can somehow approve Project Homekey. Which was what the whole thing about. The mayor has no power to approve state Homekey funds, no power to do that whatsoever. And so, you know, we can talk about that at another point if you want. I can just tell you that also, like I'm not really involved with any of the court or the FBI stuff too. So I only have what everyone else has, but I also have, like, working for her for 5.5 years, and this being extremely out of character for her. So anyway, we can talk about that later.
Great.
I would love to chat with you all about that and kind of some of the other stuff going on in City Hall.
Let's do it. All righty,
man.
Seriously. So this is an amazing episode. Again, I mean, this is what's so sad about this conversation, though. It just goes to show that what we lose from these right-wing attacks. Like, we have here a passionate worker for our community, somebody who's really doing all they can to help out everyone here, and you're pushed out, you're attacked for being a good person, and that kills me. I'm so sorry, but thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for coming on here, Brandon. Everyone should follow Brandon on all the socials. He's on Bluesky, he's on X, and everyone should follow us on all our socials. We're the same thing.
And also, I mean,
endorse that.
Lakeshore Avenue and Lake Merritt need to thank him. We were just talking about this before we came on. He's doing beautification all over our neighborhoods. And he's actually doing it with his hands, and he's doing it with his time, and he's doing it for free. And so that's the kind of energy and spirit we need in the city. We don't need the other kind of energy and spirit that the ones that are trying to go up against the good force like this man right here. Yes,
we need people who build up Oakland, not tear it down.
That's right.
Exactly. That's right. And so anyways, keep supporting us on Patreon. Until next episode.
Keep fighting the good fight.
You as well, my friends. Take care.
All right.